Give me 1 second.
Thank you, whoever hit record. I appreciate it. So welcome to our systems facing call and we appreciate everybody who accommodated us. It was supposed to be last week, but of course, Juneteenth is a new national holiday in the United States. And so thank you for accommodating us and coming back this week instead. So this is one of the systems facing tracks that's part of the CARC, which is the Campus Research Computing Consortium. And if you take a look at the thing, we have systems facing, research facing, data facing, emerging centers, and strategy and policy. In addition, we have some workforces, working groups like about staff workforce and student workforce. Brian's very active on that particular one. And then we also are part of the annual PERC conference, which is coming up in Columbus in July 20th to 24th, I believe. So next slide, please. Maybe that's the only slide. Is there a next slide?
It should have advanced, did it not?
Oh, I don't think so. Well, I didn't see it. You're sure.
Let's try this share again. That's
Okay, here we
share.
go.
Can you see that?
Yes, I pretty much covered that, the different facings, and there's the various working groups, and all you can do, the best way to get involved is get on our mailing list and also get on the Slack channel, because there's a pretty good exchange of ideas there. So next slide. Okay, and those are the interest groups. Next slide. Okay. And this is how it works. So we're part of the and along with Dory and Brian and Nathan and Nick are part of the steering committee for the systems facing. They have a chairs leadership team. Brian and Matthew Smith from UBC are currently our chairs, and there's a leadership team. And then we're also looking into how to make it into a nonprofit. So there's a newly appointed initial board of directors for CARC. So I think without further ado, why don't we who had slides? It was Jacob. So why don't we start with Jacob, and I'll do a quick introduction. So today is about jumpstarting your RCD systems career, and we've selected 3 different people to be on our panel that are different parts of their RCD careers. And so we have Nathan Wells, who is part of the CARC Systems Facing Steering. He's at Kansas State University. We have Jacob Boschee. Is it Boschee? Did I say
Boschee, but yeah.
Boschee.
Yep.
And he's from University of British Columbia's ARC group. And we also have Dr. Dan Voss from Corewell Health, sorry about that. So Jacob, why don't we start with your slides? So we asked our panelists sort of a group of starter questions, and Jacob made some slides. So why don't you put those up and we'll get started.
Sure. It's coming through still good?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I can give a little bit of background about myself. I'm Jacob Boschee. I'm currently a senior systems analyst at the University of British Columbia's Advanced Research Computing Department. And I started kind of my career into research computing and research computing support, actually back when I was a PhD student. I did my PhD at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology under the physics department. And as part of kind of my research assistantship and assisting with the department, I was told, here, we have this small cluster of hardware that everybody's contributed to over the last 5 to 8 years. It keeps falling over. Can you make it work for everybody? So it was a mix of hardware that had been donated and kind of strung together between the physics, nano, and biochemistry department. It was about 60 nodes, and it was all set up with like single NFS system shared from the head node, just over Ethernet. And that was kind of my introduction to doing as close to high performance computing as we could get at the university. And it was helping our researchers get set up, work through running jobs on the system, and then whenever a piece of hardware would fail or something, I'd go in and have to mostly take the node offline because we didn't have a lot for replacements. But I basically worked on that system for the 6 years I was doing my PhD program. And at the end of that, I had finished my PhD, and I was looking into whether I wanted to continue on in kind of a research track career of becoming a postdoc and looking towards tenure track, or if I wanted to like branch more into this computing side that I'd been working on as the kind of like the side of what I did for my actual research. So when I finished up, I applied to a number of different places, and I saw that there was a system administration position for the Advanced Research Computing Department at UBC, and I applied there. It's currently where I ended up working, and it is the second largest research university in Canada. About 18,000 staff, and I think these numbers are actually out of date, probably closer to 70,000 students now. And we provide services to pretty much any faculty or graduate student for any discipline across the university. And our department is centrally funded by the Vice President of Research and Innovation Portfolio. So I had started as a system administrator and then promoted to system admin 2. And for that position, I was pretty focused on kind of the standard system administration tasks of working with our local hardware and handling our scheduling software. And along with that, I had a lot of research interfacing as well, where we'd have researchers that, you'd have a piece of software that they would like to run on the system, and they'd come to us and say, we're having issues, or could you help us install it? And I was kind of one of the ones to do more of that on the system admin side, especially anytime it came to commercial software. Abacus is not my friend. I spent a lot of time on trying to get that to work, and that was like the first big software piece that got handed to me about 3 months after I started. Yeah, and then I kind of branched out and started exploring what sort of technologies we could offer for a researcher, is how we can integrate that into our current offerings. And then the end of last year, I was offered a role as the senior systems analyst. And in this case, I still do a lot of direct research work with researchers on assisting with their workflows. And now, rather than being more focused on the hardware and kind of operational side of our system, I'm focused on developing and deploying new services for our researchers. And that's things like a new software deployment pipeline, open on demand, which was my first thing that I got to do in this new role. And now this year, I'm working on a redesign of how we're handling our allocation requests and kind of onboarding new users to our system. So, yeah, I'll hand it off to whoever would like to go next.
Why don't we go to Nathan next? So Nathan's relatively new to systems work. So
Rather new.
Why don't you take it
Yeah.
away?
Yeah, so my name is Nathan Wells. As mentioned, I work for Kansas State University. I have worked for K-State for quite some time now. I have had a rather let's call it interesting introduction to the world of research computing and systems administration for HPC environments. Initially, I started out as a student IT consultant for Kansas State University. I worked for the engineering department to just manage client desktops or printers, basic help desk stuff like that for the engineering department. I ended up getting laid off because we didn't need the workforce because of COVID and nobody was on campus. So no need to clean the computers on campus when there's nobody there. I then moved on to work for the SIOC as a assistant security analyst, and that started me out getting some more introduction to the cybersecurity level of computing, and that kind of prompted me to go into my secondary bachelor's, which is cybersecurity, aside from my primary computer science one. From there, I worked there for about 2 years or so, and then I moved on to being a student's systems administrator for the computer science department. And from there, my I guess you could say expertise exploded in terms of how I knew how to support researchers, how I knew how to administrate a system. I got to a point where some of my colleague or not colleagues, some of my friends that I was going to school with would come to me for Linux help. With this job, I had the responsibility to administrate the CS department's Windows computers. Am I cutting out? Sorry. Excuse me. I had the opportunity to administrate the CS department's Windows computers, Windows Active Directory, the Linux LDAP, the basically about everything under the sun, because they wanted us to learn and understand how to manage a system. And this was a rather small cluster. This didn't contain any sort of compute power. We were only managing software through things such as Windows PDQ software deployment, Ansible for Linux desktops or laptops, GitLab for all of our scripts and repositories. It wasn't until after I graduated in May of 2023, and I took a job with K-State again as a HPC systems administrator under Bayocat in August of 2023, if I remember correctly, that I really expanded my I'll say it again, exploded my knowledge of what I knew about HPC assistance. I had the slight promise, I guess you could say, that I would be learning for the next 5 years on that system before I was really handed some large lead reins as far as a systems administrator role would go. But luck has it that the primary sysadmin ended up leaving us for just various reasons back about 9 months into my employment. So about 9 months into my employment, I was handed the keys to this whole 360 some odd cluster, including all of the infrastructure, all of the network switches, all of that stuff. Granted, I had a wonderful support structure from the previous admin and then a couple other people that I could lean on and rely on for support, thankfully. But it has prompted for some, let's just say, emergency learning. And kind of accelerated my HPC and RCD career to higher levels than I thought I would get to at this point in my career. It's okay. And so at this point, I've learned different technologies such as CephFS, MySQL. I utilize Proxmox for our virtual environment. We utilize Icinga as far as service monitoring for different outages. We utilize Ganglia for cluster monitoring for various different things such as network load, memory usage, temperatures, the number of jobs running through our Slurm cluster. And I would like to preface that most of this was set up previously for me by other people, but I don't know if I could have gotten anywhere without it. So I thank them. But at this point, I am the one maintaining it. So it's proven to be entertaining. But very I'm losing the words here I'm looking for. I apologize. I've learned a lot. Let's just say that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And our Our final panelist here is Dr. Dan Voss, who's the Director of Research Computing for Corewell Health. So Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Jim. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, good. So I'm currently the Director of Research Computing for a hospital research institute out of Detroit, Michigan. And before this, I was Director of Research Computing at the University of Kansas. And before that, I was, if you can guess it, an HPC sysadmin. So there are paths to go from being a sysadmin to a director job if you can grab the right opportunities at the right time. I guess that's hopefully what I'll talk to you guys about today, advancing that career path. And then I guess I also plug, there is a organization called the Cyber Infrastructure Community-Wide Mentorship Network. It's called CCMNet, and I see there are at least a couple of people on this call that are part of my mentorship opportunity, which is how to become a boss. I'll put that link in the chat after this. But yeah, so I guess what I want to talk about today is how do you transition a career from being a systems-focused person to a leadership director role. And remember too that it's not just, you don't have to be a leader as a director. There are also leadership roles that are very technical focused if you like that part of the role better, versus having more of the people versions to it. Because I mean, CARC has separated out data facing, people facing, systems facing, and if you know what you like and what you can do, there are ways to advance your career in other opportunities than just going straight to like people side or researcher facing side. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Jim.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dan, and thanks for being here. And that was a good way to start us off in terms of a career transition. So that's great, and that you pointed that out. I just wanted to ask a couple people. So Jacob and Dan, you both have PhDs, and so you pivoted from grad school. You went the what they would call it, the alt-ac route. So could you talk a little bit about that, Dan?
Yeah, so my background when I started was in the basic sciences. I was a chemist and a cellular biologist by education, and I never thought I'd go into computer related things at all. I was going to be a field lab researcher. And then I just happened to trying to get jobs in that space down in Miami when I finished my master's in marine chemistry. And I mean, Linux was blowing up back then, and people were modeling. There's a group in physical oceanography who was doing Linux clusters, and a friend of mine was a chemist who was working in that space. He's like, "Hey, I could really use some help. I know you're pretty good with computers." I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." He was using Unix at the time. He's like, "You'll figure it out." So my background is not computers at all, but because I worked at a university, he said that I had a very good mentor in the beginning, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to do this mentorship network with the NSF CCM. That is to give back. And he's like, "No, come to university, work for me. You'll get free tuition and go get a master's in computer information systems. So use your university benefits, supplement your science degree with a computer degree, and then we'll go from there." And that's what he did too. He had a PhD in chemistry, and he went and got a master's in computer information systems. At the time, I was like, "That's crazy. You have a PhD." He's like, "No, this is important to gain that knowledge, learn more, and apply that to what you want to do next." So, yeah, science, and I used my job and my mentor to get a computer degree, and that helped me get that next stage in my career. Right. Then I went to Florida State University to join their first HPC center. And I think, right, I had the science background and the computer background, which helped get that next job to get the next stage of my career. Now then, I guess the PhD piece. The PhD piece I did had nothing to do with any of my jobs. That was, once again, because I was working at university. I decided it would be important because a lot of jobs I wanted to apply for at the time had PhD requirements because universities like PhDs. So I got a PhD in computer science just to make sure I had that next checkbox to get the next level of my career.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Dan. And I just heard the first cracks of thunder outside. So if I disappear, I'm sure Dory will be able to take over. Thanks, Dan. So that's interesting because I'm a bad astrophysicist by training. And my initial mentors in the systems field came from the University of Miami physical oceanography group. So that's very interesting.
Nice. we might have
Yeah,
people we
big
know
time
in common.
modelers. Yeah,
Yeah.
big time modelers. So, Jacob, could you talk a little bit about your journey sort of out of academics?
Yeah. So when I was doing my PhD at the South Dakota School of Mines Technology, it was in physics. My background was in looking at kind of the material science behind improving quantum computing. So I did my PhD research work on designing a photonic metamaterial, basically a nanomaterial that limits certain frequencies of sound that goes through it. And when I was finishing up my my program and defending my thesis, I looked into the option of if I wanted to continue on as a postdoctoral student and then move into trying to apply for tenure somewhere. And I had considered that. I talked with my advisor, and also I had switched advisors during the middle of my program. My original advisor actually took a position at Google and moved on from his tenure there. I can absolutely understand it, given when Google comes with a large sack of money, it's hard to ignore. But yeah, talking with them, I wanted to still remain in research in some way, and I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to pursue the tenure track of spend 3 to 6 years being a postdoc and then another 6 years looking towards trying to get tenure. I ended up deciding that this would be a good track for me because it still gives me the opportunity to interact and work with researchers on developing a field of research, but it also gives me, because I'm now interfacing with not just, say, my other colleagues in the physics field, but across the entire university, a much wider breadth of kind of interest in research itself. So I still see myself as an important part of the research community, even if I'm not the one that's writing and publishing papers on various topics.
Great, thanks. And Nathan, you indicated that you went back for a second bachelor's degree to kind of
Oh,
up your.
yeah, I actually never went back for a second bachelor's. It just so happened that I was able to tack on a couple extra classes.
Oh,
Sorry, my internet cut out right at the end of what I was saying earlier. But basically it ended up being that I tacked on an extra 2 semesters in order to grab a bachelor's in cybersecurity, in which I took a couple of extra classes. Because at the time the computer science degree and the bachelor's and the cybersecurity degree were pretty tied together, except for I think like 5 classes. But
cool.
yeah, other than that, as far as research, I actually did a small amount, even though I wasn't a thesis student or anything like that, or a postdoc. I helped develop a paper. We were told that we had to develop this paper with Ensure. I forget exactly what the group is called, but they're called Ensure. We were tasked with the Where to Look cyber sensor placement and calibration project, which was basically develop a network telescope using using NVIDIA Bluefield DPUs. Really cool. Had a lot of fun actually getting and doing the project and getting to work with the hardware. Again, granted, we worked with it remotely. But we got so far as to develop the matrices of detection to basically read all the packets that were being grabbed, filter out all the contents, and then pack them all together so that they can be processed. We never got past that part, but we did end up, just because of time, we had to graduate, we did end up writing a paper. It did end up getting a IEEE short paper awards, which was really cool. And yeah, so I don't really have a huge research background, but I've got a little bit.
Okay, great, great. So We're gonna do a couple quick hitters, round robin, unless are there any questions in the chat, or if you'd like to, you can just unmute and ask a question.
Nothing yet.
Okay, so seeing that, you know, Nathan, I think you particularly talked about being sort of having to learn quite quickly to expand your knowledge.
Yeah.
So how do you learn? What's your go-to stuff for learning?
Um, as far as learning goes, I read a lot of man pages. I'll be honest. It's just brutal man pages a lot of the time. I got to be real. Before I hopped into this meeting, I was just reading through Ansible manual pages to figure out a couple projects that I need to finish up this morning. And eh, that's not the best answer, but that's the answer that I was given. I was handed a granted, I personally learn really well with hands-on learning. So that is a lot of what I like to do. A lot of the time will just stand up a test environment before I do. I mean, obviously you need to stand up a test environment before you push it out to production. But I'll probably spend a little bit more in the test environment tinkering around with it before anything. But yeah, it's a lot of just writing my own documentation, looking up the just manual pages for proper documentation, and maybe a YouTube video here and there, but not very often.
Okay, great. Jacob?
Yeah, so I kind of share a similar way of like looking at learning and developing, where I think having a chance to try and experiment with things is the best way for you to learn, because you'll probably make mistakes, you'll probably break something. If it's on a test environment, hopefully that's where you're breaking things. But that is the way that I find useful to learn is, if you make a mistake and you go back and solve it, it sticks with you a lot better than if you just like read an instruction on here's how to do this, follow it to the letter, and it works the first time. Because at that point you've just kind of done a task and followed the set of instructions. Whereas if you have a chance to kind of develop that task yourself and work through the process of not only actually doing the work, but understanding how the work needs to be put together for it to function. So yeah, a lot of the like projects and stuff that we're doing, especially now with my new role, we have a test environment where it's just going to be me and my colleagues sitting down. We're going to try to run through some stuff, look at both what's the best way that we can build this, as well as what fits well for our specific situation for our university.
Great. How about you, Dan?
How do I learn? So I'm not very system focused anymore, so I won't talk on that. But I will say one of the craziest things I still do, which helps people a lot, is I can still Google very well, which is a weird skill to have, I think. Like actually filtering out Google. And the other weird thing I do is I try not to use AI, which is very strange in this day and age, because I want to learn on my own and figure things out, which is an also strange thing to do.
Great.
I'll echo
Yeah.
those two statements just because I have researchers come to me that try to use just any of the AIs to try and pull up write a script for them, and then I'm had to come in and give them the man pages, be like, all right, no, this isn't how you write this. It's so yeah, I'll echo those two statements.
Yep, same here. We get researchers who come in and say, I wrote my script using GPT and it's not working. What's wrong?
So there seems to be a consensus that we're not going to be kicked out of our jobs anytime soon by the AI, right? That's
For sure,
great.
hopefully.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's a comment in the chat is I find it helps me cut down on the possibilities or come to a solution faster. You want to say anything about that?
So I can say something. Oh, sorry, Dan.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there was one time I will say I did have a user. I'm not a great Java developer, and a user was attempting to use Java, and I will say they did pull up a line. The ChatGPT gave them a line from the manual pages that we were actively looking at um, to fix the code, and it did fix it a little bit faster. Granted, like I said, we were on the manual pages, so we would have gotten there eventually. But I mean, so it can help narrow down troubleshooting. But personally, I like to read the logs and I just understand what's going on instead of having something else analyze it. But that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, somebody, and Bobby's further said, I don't use it to write code. And that's probably
It's all
that's
good.
probably good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like using copy paste from what is it, Stack Exchange or something like that to as root to do something. It's just not good.
Okay, Nabil has a comment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I teach a class in computer science, a graduate level called Software Engineering Concept. And for me, I use AI extremely to the point no student are allowed to write their own code. It has to be generated by AI, completely 100%. No human brain should be used at all. And this is the experiment we did. They built a complete app from A to Z. It's a simple math game for kids with graphics, with code, with sound, audio, character, and they publish it in Amazon App Store, 100% AI generated. It wasn't easy. It took them 3 months to learn how to adjust the prompt, go back and forth, but I think they are now master in doing that using AI tools. The reason I'm doing that for my student, because I read this research paper that software engineers who use AI tools, their productivity double or triple compared to the one that's not using them. And tech company right now, they're actually focusing on engineer who use AI tool, regardless what we think about AI tools. So they are there, companies that want to reduce cost and increase productivity. And these tools, from my own experiment, which this is my third semester, to use only AI tools and no human code is allowed whatsoever. We are computer scientists, so I ask them to use divide and conquer. You try to write the code very tiny, small code at a time, troubleshoot it, make sure it's work, then build up step by step. But building the whole code together, it's a nightmare using AI tools. It's not going to work, or a massive code. But using snippets, small code, what I saw, it's outstanding results, unbelievable. And as I mentioned, they published a mobile app in Amazon App Store, completely 100% using AI tools, no human involved. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's an unbelievable example of sort of a counterpoint to what we were talking about. And there's a professor at Penn State where I used to work that's incorporating. He's the head of the writing program, and they do like 400 courses of the Intro to Composition course, and they use the AI tools. Not exclusively, but to sort of augment them, compare what their initial drafts look like to something that, Chat GPT or any of the others Anthropic gets a hold of. And he's doing it because they're going to have to compete against people in the workplace that do that, no matter what field they're in. So that's a great point. Thank you, Nabil. I appreciate it. So
I'll add to that. So yeah, I read that same article that said productivity. So it's based on your level of expertise in the software development, right? So if you're a intro learner, new learner, increase your productivity like 30, 40%. If you're an expert in the field, it might help you 10% maybe, and make it slightly more efficient. But the trick is, if you don't know what you're writing, it's the same thing as we see in the hospitals too. You don't want AI to be giving you a diagnosis for your condition, but you want a doctor who knows what's going on and have an AI assistant to help you. I mean, it could help an expert, but you don't want to have that be your sole source of things because you don't know what it's doing or have someone who understands the code too. I mean, I agree, and it's very helpful, especially with student pace. And I mean, every tech company wants to move that way, but if you don't know what it's doing, you're going to lose out at some point of understanding how it's functioning.
And Bobby says he just uses WebMD. All right. Any other comments on this topic? This is pretty interesting. We're sort of away from the career field, but you know, it's coming, right? And people are going to have to deal with it. So, so as you moved into management, Dan, so what did you have to give up?
That is a good question. So it's not what I mean, I gave up, but it's also what you have to learn. I mean, the biggest deal in leadership positions is the people skills, the soft skills. That's the hard part too. I mean, the technical stuff, I was still deep into it, and I still design, clusters and help researchers. But that the people piece is the hardest piece, because you're not just dealing with the code and researchers and projects. Now you're dealing with VPs and chancellors and everything else, that you have to convince them that what you need to do in every place you have. It's the same thing. It's money, people, and how to get you to the front of the line to be successful. So yeah, that's the big deal. And I guess I can plug that too. There's a NSF group out of Michigan State called the Cyber Ambassadors, which is a good soft people skill. They do virtual workshops at least once or twice a year. I can put that in the chat too. And it helps you learn those skills. It also helps you learn things at team building and things to work with people. And that's the most important part. But the system stuff is great to know, so you can discuss it and talk intelligently with both your people who work for you and with the researchers to know what is capable and possible. But the people skills is probably the most important piece.
That's great. Yeah, when I moved up into management, they sent us to the More Associates IT Leadership Program, which I can't say enough of. And they had a big program with the Big Ten schools. So that's how I was working for Penn State at the time. And that's exactly what it is. It's all about managing your time, leading your people, and being able to talk to people to whom you report and to whom they report, and sort of translate technical things into business models and in terms of dollars and cents, so the vice president for business services can know what you're up to, know what you're spending your money on. And yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. So anybody else want to plug a leadership program, or talk about their transition to a leadership position? Okay.
Well, I didn't transition to a leadership position myself, but my previous job at Anchor, they offered a leadership academy program that I found really good. I mean, it has changed through the years, so it went through different teachers. The ones that were, when I took it, were really good. And I learned a lot from that program. And oddly enough, one of the things that they said is that before doing the transition to leadership, you should take a program like that and see if you will really like that. And in their teachers' experience, they said that more than 50% of the people that went through that didn't like it and didn't want to do it. They could be good at it. And in fact, I had that same feeling myself, that I could be good at that. But wouldn't be liking it as much as they liked the technical job, because after all, most people that are in this job went through it because they liked something technical, went through college or something in a technical job. They didn't go to a business school to learn leadership to begin with. So maybe they were not attracted in the first place there. And so there was also the discussion of institutions that provide a technical track for career advancement. And we had this conversation on list a few months back. I think that was pretty interesting too.
Great. Thanks for that perspective. And so that was it, NCAR, you said?
Yes, I took that leadership academy training at Anchor, and they still offer it today, but with different teachers. So I don't know how it is now, but it was excellent at the time.
Okay. Yeah, and one of the things about the, you bring up about going into the leadership, one of the sort of, I would say, pillars of the more associates training is that you could lead from anywhere. So that, no leadership training goes to waste, no training and soft skills go to waste, because you can always use it no matter where you are in the organization. So
true. In fact, I use many of the things I've learned there all the time in my current technical job. I use that actually even in my family, with my kids and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's something one of the guys that went through it said the exact same thing. One of the guys that went through the leadership program training with me said the exact same thing. I use it on my family more than I use it at work. So, anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and butt in because, I started down the management track all of a sudden after taking a job at Lambda. And so really got tossed into the deep end as Lambda, just around the time that I started, became a unicorn startup, reaching a $2 billion valuation. And so I was kind of thrown into the deep end of kind of managing a very brand new team at a very high-paced startup. And what I will say is that, a lot of the kind of practice, I don't want to say practice, but experience helping out with, in leadership roles with SIG HPC and then also the CARC systems facing track, did a lot to help me especially hone soft skills around leading without authority, which I think is a huge part, especially if you want to go down the technical side of leadership tracks. Being able to lead without kind of any kind of institutional authority is really, really important, and being able to convince others to kind of get behind an idea or a process is really important. So for anyone here, if you want to start to gather some of that experience, please reach out to some of these organizations that you might have a interest with, and starting to get into volunteering for some of those leadership positions, because I think that's a great way to start to develop those skills outside of any kind of leadership courses that might be offered at your own institution, like Davide just mentioned.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot, John. Great comment. And so we've got about 2 or 3 minutes remaining. Any final comments? Nathan, we'll start with you.
I guess as somebody who's really in the super early stages of HPC development, HPC system administration, and research computing assistance, don't be afraid to just jump right in, I guess. That's not I guess it's not a great suggestion, but it's kind of what I ended up having to do. But don't be afraid to jump right in and just break something if it ends up breaking. You'll fix it eventually, if anything. But definitely test stuff before you do it. Yeah, I can't stress that enough. Definitely push stuff to your test environment before your production environment. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, I'd say one thing I would add is we have the excellent community to reach out to. So if you're looking at pursuing this sort of role or advancing in any sort of the career path, talk to talk to other people in the community, see what they've done or what they're looking at doing, and hopefully that can help you make your own decisions.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
I guess I'm gonna keep plugging, I guess, free and available NSF sponsored things. So at a University of Oklahoma, Henry Neiman has a Becoming an Institutional Research Computing Leader workshop. It's a virtual workshop this August. I put a link in the chat. So it's an easy way to see what people do. He has panels about every different aspect of institutional leadership. So, I mean, yeah, use the resources you have, get involved in these organizations, and then just like CARC, become on the leaderboard. Or CARC, do whatever you want to do. And I like the thing too. There are many different ways to lead. It doesn't have to be. It can be technical. It can be people. It can be a researcher. But right, use those skills to advance your career as you go. If you have questions, if you're going to be at PERC this year, I'll be at PERC too. If you want to stop and say hi to me, and anything else you want to, my email I think is in the link somewhere. So shoot me an email. I can help you out, or join my mentoring group at the CCMNet.
Great. Hey, thank you very much. And I think we're just about out of time. So unless there's any other questions, I just want to reminder, Dan brought up PERC, and so that means that we don't have a call in July. We don't have a systems facing call in July because it usually corresponds to the same week that PERC is. But in August, our call will be about sort of your reactions, your favorite things that you saw at PERC. So it's a PERC recap type talk. So be thinking about that. If, you know, as part of our community, be thinking about that as you attend PERC, and think about what kind of things struck you and that you'd like to bring back to the community and maybe highlight or discuss for our August meeting. So anybody else final comments? If not, we really appreciate our panelists, Nathan and Jacob and Dan, and for doing that. And we'll see you hopefully at PERC, and if not, we'll see you in August. Thanks everybody for coming.